Hello, I'm Nicola, the creator of Robot Will Protect You animation project. And today I'm going to show you the render technique that I used to obtain the look of my film. First of all, let me remind you that this is an indie film project without any big production behind. So any contribute and share to the Kickstarter campaign is very important to give me the opportunity to make a stunning film. You'll find the link to the Kickstarter page in the description of this video or by searching Robot Will Protect You. But let's start with the tutorial. What I'm trying to achieve with the look of Robot Will Protect You is a mix of 3D animation and classic hand-drawn cartoons. My biggest influences are Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and all the Hayao Miyazaki movies. But at the same time, I want a more Western and more unique style. Some of you might recognize a similar look in a video game like Borderlands. So, I'm working entirely with CGI and nothing is handmade. The techniques I'm using are very basic and can be applied to any software. Doesn't matter if you use Blender, Cinema 4D or Maya. You'll be able to achieve the same result with any 3D software. The textures must be pretty basic and non-realistic. I'm using simple colors, and if I have to use some existing photographing textures, I apply on Photoshop a median filter, to make everything less detailed and more toonish. It's also great to paint your texture using artistic brushes to give the feeling of something handmade. At last, I apply over the whole image a brush strokes texture with just a bit of opacity. Shaders have to be basic as well. You don't need to use bump, displacement, nor refraction. None of them. Maybe just a bit of reflection if you have wet surfaces. To achieve a truly flat colors, you need to set the self-illumination of your shader to 100%, while setting the specular level to 0. If you want a bit more realistic effect, then you can lower the self-illumination and raise the specular, keeping the glossiness to an average value, depending also on what kind of material are you using. And this is how the flat colors pass looks like. Pretty ugly, huh? But with the other passes on top, everything will be awesome. So let's move to part 2. A very important pass for achieving a non-photorealistic render is the shadows one, especially if you'd like to have an anime look. Some like to have already the main material with this kind of shades, but I prefer to have more control during compositing, so I'd like to render a separate pass. So, to render the shadows pass, I use a material override parameter, applying the same shader to the whole scene. The shader is very simple, just 3 levels of black and white gradient ramp without fades, reacting to the light on scene. If you like a more simple effect, you can just set it to be 2 colors, full black and full white, but I'd like also to have a halfway gray. And here is the shadows pass sequence. If you work with animation, I'm sure you know everything already about the ambient occlusion. It's basically a render technique to calculate how exposed each part of a scene is to the ambient light. For this project, I'm also rendering an ambient occlusion pass to give a bit more 3-dimensionality to the look of the film. Having a hand-drawn style outline to the whole scene is a very important part of the overall look of Robot Will Protect You. To achieve this result, I'm using a plugin for 3D Max called P-Soft Pencil, but you can achieve a similar effect with a standard outline tool now available in all the main 3D software. The secret is to apply masks to change the opacity and width of the lines, for having a more natural and hand-drawn look. For the pencil sketchy feeling, a trick is to duplicate the layers, applying a turbulent displacement to each layer and lowering the opacity. In this way, you achieve the feeling of someone who drew many lines on top of each other with a pencil before drawing the actual black line with a marker. You can easily achieve this effect with Photoshop or After Effects. Just duplicate the layers, lower the opacity, and apply a different turbulent displacement to each layer. The final result will be a bit wiggling, but that's similar to how it would look like if you actually draw by hand each frame. Now that all the passes are done, it's time to composite. The bottom layer is of course the flat colors one, on which I applied a bit of glow to bloom the lights. On top of the colors pass I put the shadows one, set in multiply mode and with an opacity between 40 and 60%. I don't want the shadows to be entirely black. Same thing I do also with the ambient occlusion, multiply and opacity between 50 and 100%, according with the look you want to achieve. Finally, the outline pass, at 100% opacity, or a bit lower if you don't want the lines to be too strong. This is the result before adding any other effects or color grading. It's fun to play with the different layers, especially switching off the color pass, having a truly old-school black and white effect. The final touch is to grade a bit the whole picture, adding a rain effect and the car's light streaks. This is how it looks like. Not bad considering the passes were very simple to set and very fast to render. This is it for now. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please consider to contribute to the Kickstarter campaign. I truly need help from any of you. Thank you and see you soon.